Hello, and welcome to the Argyle Finance Leadership Forum. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our panel moderator. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our moderator, Sandra Pham, Vice President, Finance, People and Culture, Kaiser Permanente. We're super excited to have Sandra and our panelists for a panel discussion titled The Finance Perspective, How to Successfully Deploy Automation Strategies. Welcome, Sandra. Over to you.
Great. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. In the last 5 years, finance technology has seen hyper automation, replacing a lot of the manual processing work that we grew up with, particularly in the back office functions. We've seen this automation in our AR area, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and financial reporting and automation. So not only does it improve efficiency, but it reduces human error. Today, we're lucky enough to have 3 finance leaders who are willing to share their insights on how to successfully lead their teams through the technology and the change management issues that they encountered in deploying automation. So let me go ahead and let them introduce themselves. We'll start with Madhuri, and then Anatan, and then Rahul.
Hello, and good afternoon or good morning to you all, depending on which time zone you are all in. I am Madhuri Raju, and I have over 25 years experience in automotive, manufacturing, and healthcare industries in Fortune 10 company settings. Having worked in strategy and implementation of visible programs as part of business or corporate finance, as an insider, I am now influencing digital journey and helping the digital journey of companies as an outsider, as a founder and CEO of ISS LLC. That's International Sourcing Solutions LLC.
Great. Thanks, Madhuri. Anatan?
Thank you, Sandy. My name is Anatan Adesanya. I have about 30 years of experience in healthcare finance. I spent 25 years and was an executive at Kaiser Permanente, and subsequently, I did a couple of years as CFO for one of the providers for behavioral health for Kaiser Permanente. And currently, I am the controller for hospitals and clinics for San Mateo Medical Center, and it's really a pleasure to be here.
Great. Thank you. Rahul?
Thank you, Sandra. My name is Rahul Trivedi. I have around 30 years of experience in technology, product development, engineering, and operations. I have worked in various sectors across the economy that includes telecom, manufacturing, and finance. I have been in this automation space for 10 plus years. I'm currently working as Vice President of Intelligent Automation at TransUnion, and my responsibilities include global strategy and delivery of intelligent automation.
Great. So with such a qualified panel, let's jump into it. From your experience, how have you seen finance technologies evolve over the past couple of years? We would love to hear your real world example.
Thank you, Sandy. In my experience, this is what I am seeing out there, and especially in healthcare, and actually it cuts across many other industries. We are moving away from some of the systems that are used to do things faster and cheaper. Mm-hmm. And those are becoming your foundational systems. Now you're moving into a space where the finance tools that are out there are, introducing ways to measure as well as predict the outcomes of the financial transactions that you're responsible for. So a lot of it, and I'm going to, when we talk about the other questions, I'm going to share some things that I am seeing there that I am also experiencing within my organization.
Great. Rahul?
Sandy, this is like a very interesting question. And like this technology evolution is a continuous journey. Just looking at like last 10 years from where the automation world has come, I worked in automation or started working in automation in around 2013 timeframe or so. At that time, RPA was still not a very well-known word. There were only one company around, and that was just Blue Prism at that time. There was no other company in that space around. When I joined IBM's automation practice in 2015, so at that time, IBM was using two types of tools for automation. So one was a tool called IP Center from a company called IPsoft. I believe they're still around. And that is where the majority of the automation IBM was doing. And it was mainly the backend automation using scripts. So essentially the server maintenance jobs kind of things, basically that was being done there. And then second type of automation, which IBM at that time used to call it as a dynamic automation. And that was basically the previous name for RPA they were using. And there was only one basically a company, Blue Prism. I think their market valuation at that time was around 30 million or so. And IBM at one point was thinking internally that whether they should go and buy Blue Prism. Since then, so many things have happened. But we have come a long way from those early years of technology evolution and deployment of just using the script-based automation to going to the automation where there are 20 plus competitors are there, different products are there. Now there are advanced tools and choices available where you can mine a process, and then at least the premise is that from mining to automation, that will all happen seamlessly. And that's probably like the future going to be. So there is this huge evolution which is happening. And now with Gen AI coming up, this evolution is going to become a revolution, basically. Our speed of change is going to become much, much higher.
Right. Thank you. I know we're going to dig deeper into that area. Madhuri?
Hi, I totally echo what the two gentlemen ahead of me have said. Other than, and just to add to the topic of discussion, the RPAs have become more mainstream. And one of the examples I can give you is Microsoft has come up with its own homebred version, the Power App version, where anybody in their suite of tools can basically, have their own cheap RPA, I would call it, right? Because it comes as a suite of tools with Power BI as your analytics tool, as well as your RPA, that's process mining and all those things. But other than RPA, I've also seen what started off as, as something that would help us get our financial planning and forecasting faster. That's what, pre-pandemic days, that's where most companies were. Now nobody's talking or trying to convince that, right? No, everybody knows financial reporting is a tangible outcome of that. We have the integration of ERP systems as our foundation that we did in order to enable or come this far, because without having done all that groundwork, we wouldn't be here. And now through the pandemic, we've seen that personalized customer service, how important it is, right? And with that, chatbots, the AI-driven chatbots, those are become so important, and that's taken the market by storm as well. Other than all the other tools that were talked about, I would say blockchain. Blockchain is an important tool with the distributed ledger technology that improves transparency and security, right? And it's become, and more in the supply chain area, supply chain finance and trade finance area, we've seen blockchain take over, right? So those are some of those technologies other than advanced analytics, data management, and of course, our regulatory compliance automation, which we so often sort of put as we take it for granted, but that's one of the outcomes that we desire. And that's one of the things that the companies are trying to automate so that the road tasks of auditing become more automated and we can act upon or take actions on the issues of non-compliance rather than spend the effort in digging where we are non-compliant, right? We can talk more and more around this in the later questions, but there's so many aspects that have happened in the pandemic that have opened our eyes to and steered our course.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think that brings up another point, that there's been a huge cultural role shift with the pandemic. Jobs that we thought previously couldn't be done hybrid or remotely, we all found a way to, which has also added to, along with technology, the cultural change involved. So with all the wonderful tools that you guys have outlined, give us some advice for some of us in organizations where we're really still on the early stages of determining what processes to automate first, how do we prioritize, and what recommendations do you guys have in terms of those organizations that are still thinking through where to start? Madhuri?
So yes. So basically, how do we prioritize the tasks, right? So first thing is process mining. If you want to automate, I think the first thing one has to think of is, how do we even think, do we have the right processes to automate? Because the worst thing you can do is go and automate a process that isn't even right. So first understand the problem that you're trying to solve. And I'm saying that not as a cliche, it's so relevant, because if you automate a process that is not valuable to you, or that is not even the right process, you're going to end up spending money on a process or have an outcome that is not even going to matter to your business. So I think first understand what are those key processes you want to automate. Which one is the low value process that you have humans do, you've got humans performing, and you want to automate so that the humans can be deployed for a higher cause, right? Because you don't want data entry professionals doing the job that, an MBA, right out of an MBA school, you don't want those people doing data entry and, resolving production issues in your financial reporting. You want them doing analysis. You want them acting on, results, your financial results, and you want them to give you recommendations. So those are the things that you want to first I understand which are the current processes you want to automate. Look at the low-hanging fruit. Start with repetitive and rule-based tasks, right? The financial reporting and automation analysis, I think that's a low-hanging fruit. If you haven't done all of it, take it and do it. There's a lot of automation that could happen in your regulatory and compliance space. Get those done and get this, because those have to be acted upon quickly. We have a lot of reporting happening now on ESG, right? A lot of companies have to comply with those ESG reporting. So get some of the automation done there as well, because you have a lot of out-of-the-box tools available in the market for that. Get some proof of concept done on an area or two, right? Gather your change management tasks and activities you need to pursue in order to get that change, because it's not just about flipping the bits or changing the technology. It's about having that culture change in the company. So any of these changes are not going to be successful. These are not just technology changes we're talking about. These are not even job changes. This is about a change, culture change going from top to bottom. Okay, so everyone needs to be aware of that. And then we need to have a tighter knit collaboration between IT and finance team right now, right? More than ever, because finance was operating in Excel and Access. They were like, okay, we'll just take a download from SAP, run these reports, and we are done. But that's not where we are now. We need that tighter knit collaboration between IT and finance.
No, good point.
Yep. And then look at which ones you can scale, which processes you can scale, and pick them carefully and scale those. I think those are the, those are my recommended steps to go about changing.
Rahul?
Yeah, so in order to determine what to prioritize, I agree largely with Madhuri's assertion that we should pick in order of value to the organization. And the way I have implemented this at my clients' engagements and in my current role is to judge the value by the ROI. So what I include in R and what I include in I here is that, so return on investment, so returns typically what are the kind of direct savings, direct benefits from a particular automation. So that becomes your return. There are a lot of indirect components of automation which are hard to judge, and I typically leave them out. And from the investments, leave out the common components such as the shared infrastructure, cost of the shared teams, etc. Include the direct investment in developing an automation. So that gives you a clear-cut metrics about what is the ROI for this. But every organization has got some of these situations where you cannot just be driven by ROI. There are some situations where there are regulatory concerns, where an organization could get a bad press release if they fail to comply. There is a risk of getting fines, or there is a risk of ruining relationship with an important customer, even though there is no financial benefit. So those are some of the exceptional scenarios. And I would say try to contain those scenarios, but in real life, roughly 10% of your efforts and energies will go into those. So roughly 90% drive your pipeline through ROI, 10% through these exceptional scenarios.
Great, thanks. And Anant?
Rahul and Madhuri covered this question very, very well, but here's what I will add. When I look at prioritization and things like that, and based on what I have seen of recent, there are 4 things that come to mind. And because number one, you can never have enough money to do everything that you want to do. So you have to focus on a few priorities based on 4 things. Number one, value. What value does it bring to the organization? We talked about ROI, and we talked about payback. How long is it going to take to get the payback on whatever you're investing into the development? Then impact on the organization. How much of an impact will this be? Positive impact on the organization. And then you look at affordability. And then you look at risk. In terms of affordability, it gets back to what I said earlier. You will never have enough money to do everything that you want to do. So how do you focus on the priorities based on what I talked about? And then look at, in some cases, it may actually be more meaningful to do a pilot, perfect it, and then replicate it across the organization. And in doing things like this, like Madhuri said, you're also looking at the external pressures that you have going on in terms of compliance, risk, and external risks that you have no choice but to just invest in and get it done. So as a finance executive, you have to juggle all of these things and make sure that it works well for the budgetary constraints of the organization. Having said all of this, though, we're in an organization where you don't even have the foundational systems, because the things that we're talking about now, most of the time, are bolt on to the foundational system. I'm talking about having an ERP system, having a supply chain foundational system. If you don't have those things, you have to consider whether your priority should be, focused on implementing those things that are becoming in the industry now legacy systems. They are must-haves. If you don't have it, you're not even in ground zero. You've not gotten to the starting point. And so what do? Do you decide that you focus on that, prioritize, and get those things done as quickly as possible? Or do you just leapfrog? And knowing that if you leapfrog and you start doing the other things that are considered like predictive analytics and all of those things, you don't have your foundational systems, which means that it may not be perfected. It may get you some results, but it will not be perfect because you have not, over time, you have not invested in your foundational systems. So sometimes it's a jump ball.
Yep. Well said. So some of our speakers have already touched base on it, but right now it's hard to talk about automation, much less alone anything in technology without talking about AI. In the last 12 months, we've all seen the impact it's had from all industries, from healthcare to marketing to obviously the technology fields. Have you guys began introducing AI into your environment, or are you planning to? And what are your thoughts in terms of how this will change finance operations? Anton?
Thank you. This is a very important and very critical question that all organizations must, executives, especially the finance executive, must ask. AI is here, and it's getting better, every day. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said in the beginning, I talked about predictive. We're moving from, evolving from, implementing systems that will help you do things faster and cheaper, to predicting what you do and measuring value. And in the predictive space, there are a number of AI tools that are, that are being used that are really, really impactful, and they're very, very good. So we'll talk about Einstein, for example, that is a product from Salesforce. You talk about Tableau, which has been in the market for a while and is now getting much better. And then you talk about Power BI, Microsoft. So these are tools that initially they started as prescriptive analytical tools, but they're now moving into the predictive space where they're incorporating AI, the use of AI into their systems to predict the future. So if certain things happen today, what are the likely outcomes in the future? And then you start using AI intelligence to begin to predict those things. That's the game changer for many companies. If you're able to perfect that and do that very well, you'll be ahead of the curve compared to your competitors.
Great. Madhuri?
Yes, I agree. A lot of companies, like Anton said, may not have perfected the base technologies or the base foundation yet. And the leapfrogging comes with its own risks, right? So one of the things that we need to make sure that we are doing is not just setting up the base data, but making sure that that data is accurate and we have the quality and we have the governance set up, right? Unless we do that, we cannot validate to the next step, which is, reporting or perhaps even prescribing, right? The future state. So I think one of the things, and to answer your question, one of the things that I have implemented AI in the organizations I've helped with are risk assessment and management. That's where I've implemented AI. I've also implemented AI in customer service and chatbots with personalized, customer service. That's one of the things that was a key outcome of the pandemic. One of the key asks of the pandemic from our customer base, and it was sort of like a serendipity in many ways. It was serendipitous that we came up with a tool that served the purpose and the need. And I think it's not going to stop with the pandemic. It's just going to go on. It's going to evolve as we go along. So that's one. Financial forecasting and budgeting was just step one after we set up the data analytics. But we have things in the financial industry that I haven't done, but I know that AI can be useful is for fraud detection. Right, that's one of the big use cases that we have. Definitely one of the low-hanging fruits is invoice and document processing, right? That's like one of the very low-hanging fruits, data entry, invoice processing, and those kind of things. They are those low-hanging fruit that any company should look at deploying AI for. But these are some of the use cases and tools that I've used. And yes, Tableau and Power BI are becoming more and more foundational in their existence. Before we used to look at Power BI as an end tool. Now that's the beginning, right? You start with the financial report, but where do we go from there is what we are looking at.
Right? Lou?
Yeah, I think like Anitan and Madhuri covered this question well, but I will share my thoughts on this from a slightly different angle. So the term AI was coined back in 1950s. So it has been around with us for like 70 plus years. So what had changed in last say like 5 or 10 years versus the first 60 years? Initial years of research and AI were kind of underwhelming. So when the term was coined in 50s and 60s, people found out that the results are not that encouraging. As a result of that, funding got dried up, research interest was also thin, and then slowly the capabilities of machines keep increasing in terms of the CPU power, in terms of the memory, and on the other hand, the data kept increasing in terms of the training data availability. Algorithms became complex over the years. And then finally, we started to hit this transition point where the machines have got at par or superior capability than the human mind. Machines have been superior in this particular task for a long time. For example, in mathematical calculations, machines exceeded capacity of human brain or most of the human brains in 70s itself. Then in 98, computer defeated world chess champion. And then in 2007, this AlphaGo, I believe that game champion was defeated. It was a very complex strategy game. But now machines were still inferior to human brain in terms of the natural language understanding and natural language generation. And that was true all the way till 2017. So as recently as like just 6 years back, human brain was far more superior than the machines. But all of a sudden, in next couple of years, machines have become better than human brains than in natural language understanding and generation. And that's where this generative AI term comes from. So this is kind of like a touching the final frontier. So what it does essentially is that this enables us to unlock the business processes where there is a lot of natural languages involved. So all those business processes where a free-flowing email is there, business processes where you have to do the fraud detection by looking at internet searches, they became all of a sudden easily doable using generative AI. So that is what is the real potential has become, that anywhere there is an unstructured data, there is a voice data, there is a video data, and everything is now included within the purview of our capabilities of these AI tools. So that has essentially unlocked all of it.
Right. So based on all the changes that you guys have brought up, the way we work is going to change. The field of finance is going to change. When you look at that in terms of the next, 3 to 5 years, because the future is getting faster and faster and closer to Raul's point. What jobs do you see will change most significantly? And what jobs do we have now that you see will not exist?
Who's that for?
Oh, that was for Midori, sorry.
Midori, okay.
Yeah. So I'll start off by saying any job that requires routine and repetitive tasks, right? I think those will become a thing of the past because machines can do them faster. And actually, to be honest, humans are designed for something better than that, right? We are not just like, we don't want to sit on the computer doing data entry, especially the MBAs coming out of school and BBAs. I think they'll be heavily underserved if they were just doing data entry. Some of the jobs are going to get transformed, right? So meaning the financial analysts today spend a lot of time gathering data and consolidating them, right? So reconciling them. So I think those tasks are going to get out of their hands and they're going to get more time. They're going to do more of the fun things, the analysis, the recommendation, right? That's what they are there for, right? They're finally going to do what they are going to be there for. When I was in MBA, and before my MBA, I was in product development and IT. I learned about all these fun things that financial analysts do. And I changed my field, thinking my life is going to be so exciting, interesting. I'm going to turn the companies around. But when I started my job in finance, it was underwhelming, right? Because what I was doing was mostly data gathering and consolidation. And that was something I figured was, not the best use of my skills after MBA. So I think financial analysts will look forward to doing something fun. And there'll be new roles, right? So we'll have technical expertise needed in data science and AI. Those are the new roles. We'll also have decision support professionals who will work with those tools and take the outcome of those tools and help with, recommending decisions and direction for the company and the business.
Great. What are your thoughts, Anatan?
So to Midori's point, let me give some specifics, okay? In the finance organization, as I see it, and I was in another panel of discussion recently, maybe I would say maybe a good 70% of what we do now is in play for automation, and so that the remaining 30%, which includes decision making and things like that, will be what will be left. So anything that has to do with transactions, as we know it, examples, accounts payable, even many aspects of closing the books, accounting, revenue cycle, all of those things are, the train has left the station. You're going to see a lot more machine learning tools taking control of that, using chatbots to make to make those transactions even faster and better. And so also in the analytical space, as Midori said, you're going to see a lot of the tools that we were talking about before, Power BI, Tableau, and Einstein. Those tools are going to get better and more sophisticated to bring you the information that you as a leader needs to make an informed decision, okay? Here is my worry also, big data. Because at the end of the day, your data has to be good. If your data is not good, garbage in, garbage out. Because these technologies will feed off of a lot of data, both external data and also your internal data. So how do you invest some time very quickly, if you're not there yet, to create good data, a data warehousing strategy or creating a data lake, to make sure that you scrub your data and your data is readily available and well scrubbed to be able to take advantage of these tools that we're talking about.
Is true, Rahul?
Yeah, so I agree with Anitan that many of the jobs which exist in financial industry currently, they are on the verge of being replaced by AI-based automations. Some experts have predicted that somewhere between 30% to 70%, 80% of current jobs in economy will be replaced by AI. Yeah. Anitan, like he gave examples of this business analyst and a financial analyst. Madhuri gave an example. So besides those jobs, like a lot of the jobs in the customer service area or consumer service area, they will be replaced. Right now, synthetic speech technologies have become so easily available and so realistic that it's very hard to differentiate whether you are speaking to a human agent or a machine agent. And that will bring lower cost to the organizations, better customer satisfaction, because now you don't have to stand in the queue for like 30 minutes in order to talk to someone. You can immediately talk to someone and you don't have to select these options, like select option 1 for this, 2 for this. You can just type like in a natural tone and immediately your phone is picked up. Similarly, on the like internal business process side, anything which is in some kind of a document, in some kind of a media that could be understood by machines, and it could be replied or acted upon using the organization policies and the rules for the organization. There will be scope for humans, but those will be for relatively higher order things, strategies and unexpected scenarios which have not happened so far. For example, like some response to some unexpected situation. So machines generally, they will be able to act only on based on the precedence, but not on the based on the future. And wherever the machines act, try to or predict for the future, humans are still not comfortable enough to let machines decide. So those are the decisions probably we will make. But a lot of the routine jobs, what we consider are involved currently thinking, those jobs are also on the verge of getting chopped because of the generative AI.
So we have some great questions from our audience. And as always in the world of finance, we're all thinking in terms of business cases. So one of the interesting questions that came up is, you know, you're going to need technology help, to your point about working closely with finance and technology. What would be a business reason and justification we can make in terms of, or consideration in terms of outsourcing that work of automation to your IT team rather than having your in-house team doing the work?
I can take that. I'd say one of the key things for considering outsourcing to a vendor versus keeping it in-source is the seamless customer service, right? Because once you go out to the vendor land, right? I call it vendor land, is there's a different customer experience, right? If you want to keep the customer experience homogeneous, keep it uniform, you want to keep it close to your business process or your business headquarters. So I would say you have to understand, like, if this is a process that is low value to the business, in terms of its, if something goes wrong, you know, you have the ability to reach out and you know, recover from that bad customer service, right? So I think you have to evaluate or prioritize how crucial this particular customer's journey is for your business, and evaluate if you're, you know, that's a risk you're taking. If you give it to a vendor, that's a risk. Is, you know, you're going to see customer experience that's going to be different from what your company provides. And are you willing to take the risk? Is that, how good is the vendor? Are you willing to take the risk? How valuable is that to the business? And make that decision. So I guess there is no straight yes or no answer, but I would still say that the low value, such as straight up document processing account AP tasks, those are low value. We've all established that. Those can all reside with the vendors and they can be outsourced and even in a different time zone. But a lot of times now we are thinking of, even when we outsource, we are even thinking the same time zone. Gone are the days when we think about India, Philippines, or some other Indonesia. Now we're thinking the same time zone. We're thinking Mexico, we are thinking Brazil, which largely are in the same time zone. So we got to have that mindset where we have a real human. Sometimes real humans are needed, right? Customer service is not about always having machines take care of things. Sometimes human intervention is needed. So when that is needed, where do we have those humans come from?
Right. Okay, and Anatan, you actually touched up on this previously, but the tools that we are talking about, they're exciting. They're going to grab people's attention. But at the end of the day, unless your transaction information is accurate and you're acting on good data, even good companies are going to fail. So how do you bring forward the business case in terms of making those changes so that the foundational information is accurate so you can build up toward the more exciting things that we've talked about?
So remember when the first, I think it was the first question or the second question, there were a couple of things that I indicated, and which is value. We talked about value. We talked about impact, right? Impact is very important to what you're just talking about, because at the end of the day, you could do the ROI, you could do the payback and everything, and it looks good on paper in your business case and everything, but you have to also consider the impact. If I implement this, what is the impact on the other things that I want to be able to do in the future? For example, in this case, we're talking about data. If I know that, okay, the ROI for implementing good data warehouse, whatever we call it, is there, and the payback is there, but I have to also demonstrate the impact on the things that I want to be able to do in the future, which includes using all these new predictive tools and things like that, ChatGPT and things like that. What do I need to have in place now, investing to make that happen? So impact is also very, very important.
Great. And this is going to be a great question for all of us. In terms of as career advice, either for those new MBAs that Madhuri spoke about, or those of us who are going to need to pivot with this new world, what specific new skills and competencies do you guys believe individuals will need to acquire so that they can position themselves to be in the forefront of this new finance transformation? Do you want to start, Rahul?
Sure. So in terms of the skills and competencies, I would say keep yourself up to date with whatever is happening in the marketplace. What we knew 1 year back is not true anymore. ChatGPT was launched on November 30th, 2022, and it became at that time the fastest application process product to reach 100 million users. It reached, I think, in 7 weeks time period. Compared to the all other products in human history, it was like orders of magnitude faster adaptation. I think there was a Twitter competitor which was launched, but it reached 100 million users in a day or so, but it is nowhere as compared to like the ChatGPT, considering Twitter was already an established product, basically space area. So what was true last year at this point of time had changed a lot. The top consulting companies have almost all of them have incorporated generative AI as their product line. The top technological companies, all of them virtually have generative AI as part of their product offering, or they are integrating in their product. Same thing applies to the humans too. They need to understand whosoever is in the marketplace, either they need to use these technologies in order for their benefit, in order to do the job search, write resumes, write cover letters, and they need to have the skills and the knowledge about these tools so that they can use it on their future jobs. There won't be any jobs where you can survive without using these technologies, because these are the real game changers. These are going to be real superpowers for the people, and you won't be able to survive when everybody has superpower and you don't.
I know we only have a couple of minutes, but Anton or Madhuri, anything to add in terms of advice?
Yes, I think Rahul has he has summed it up properly. Keep up your pulse on what's changing in the marketplace. But key things to remember is that financial automation, when we're on the topic of financial automation, it's a multi-dimensional faculty, and it involves a lot of things in the downstream. It involves governance, it involves change management, training and communication. So you need people of different skill sets and abilities to be able to make that automation work. It's not just technology, it's not just running numbers or validating numbers, it's not just decision support. It's things like governance. You might think of governance and not think much about governance, but that's a huge part in the success of any automation. So that change management in itself is a big. So I would say all this, and in addition to the managing the technology stack underneath, these are the other faculties that are needed for successfully implementing a financial automation. Wrapped around all of this is also my mindset of continuous improvement, right? Because one and done doesn't work in automation. It's going to have to be continuously revamped as we go.
Right? And do you want to add anything?
Yeah, one thing I would say, I will add quickly, is to harness a lot of these tools, the benefits from these tools that we've just talked about. It also comes down in an organization. It also comes down to adaptability, which gets to people and culture. And there's a book out there that I read about a year ago that I'm using in a couple of my automation that I'm implementing now. That is very good, and is very good for people to find and read and study and understand. And that is called the ADKAR model, change management model. ADKAR. ADKAR means awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. ADKAR, very good book. Understand it. If you're leading a project like this, you want to understand how do you make sure that it makes a difference and people adopt it. Very, very important.
Yeah, that is an excellent book, and it takes into account not just the technology, but the process and the cultural change that is all part of an actual transformation. So obviously, as you guys can see, this topic is so rich, we could probably go on for another hour in regards to it. So thank you to all of our experts, Madhuri, Rahul, and Anton, in terms of sharing their insight and their advice, and great appreciation to the audience for their participation. We look forward to seeing you guys again in the future.
Yeah, thank you all for such an insightful panel discussion. And I want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. This officially concludes the Argyle Finance Leadership Forum. Thank you again for joining us today and engaging in our content. Everyone, have a great rest of your day.